Hello. Well, I just want to ask you, are you real? Am I real? I'm only asking this because I appear to have woken up in an alternate universe. Now, I do understand that isolation plays tricks on the mind, but I think everything's real. The problem with people, humans, all humans, is that we assume that when there's a situation that's been going on as long or for a very long time or even as long as you've been alive, then it will continue so. And actually, that's not true. That's not the way things work at all. And the only situation I've known about North Korea is a situation in which North Korea has been ruled by a member of the Kim family. And, well, look at this. US monitoring intelligence that North Korean leader is in grave danger after surgery. Well, it looks like things are changing in Korea. The US is monitoring intelligence that suggests North Korea's leader, Kim Jong-un, is in grave danger. Kim recently missed the celebration of his grandfather's birthday on April the 15th, which raised speculation about his well-being. He had been seen 4 days before that at a government meeting. Another US official told CNN Monday that the concerns about Kim's health are credible, but the severity is hard to assess. Well, I can't really go on much further about that because we just don't know. But things are unstable in Korea, we know that. And also, just as a side issue, I might say that things are unstable in China as well. China, the most stable of communist dictatorships, the one where, whatever happened, the emperor stays at the top. But there's been quite a few cabinet disappearances, if you like, there. So, there's a whole feeling of instability over there. All right, so that's the first thing. So that's the first thing that I'm thinking of when I'm beginning to think that, maybe I'm hallucinating. And then there's this. French researchers suggest nicotine could protect against COVID-19. Now, actually, this is research that could only come from France, of course. But it says here, and it seems very credible, researchers studying COVID-19 patients in the Paris Public Hospital network have found some evidence that smokers could be better protected from the virus than others, though they warn that smoking can aggravate researchers from several institutions saw that of the 11,000 or so patients hospitalised in Paris public hospitals for COVID-19 at the start of April, only 8.5% were smokers, compared to 25.4% of the general public. They then looked more closely at 482 patients at the Pitié-Salpêtrière hospital in Paris who tested positive for COVID-19 and found a similar phenomenon. The 343 hospitalised for serious complications had a smoking rate of 4.4%, and 5.3% of the 139 who were sent home with less serious symptoms smoked. That's a slightly different, 5.3% of the 139 were smokers, and they were the ones who were sent home with less serious symptoms. Upon further investigation accounting for age and sex, the researchers found that the small number of smokers appeared to have had some kind of protection against the virus. Now, it seems like they're not the first to have come up upon this. The findings were in line with a study on COVID-19 in China, published at the end of March in the New England Journal of Medicine, that found 12.6% of 1,099 people studied who tested positive for COVID-19 were smokers, while the smoking rate in China is around 28%. So all that stuff we were saying before about the bad results in China, and people were saying, well, yeah, but more people smoke there, which would weaken their lungs. Well, apparently smoking wasn't the reason. The French study confirms that active smokers are protected against the SARS-CoV-2 infection, writes the press release. The reasons for this protection are not established, but nicotine could be a candidate. Yeah, nicotine could be. What is nicotine? Some sort of a stimulant. Maybe it just gets the body, working quicker or something. But I might point out that this is part of the problem. The thing that's keeping us in lockdown, the thing that is, and it's not a hoax. I want to make another video about people calling it a hoax. But meanwhile, I want to say the thing about it and the reason for the lockdown is that we don't know. Nobody knows. Nobody knows really how to treat it. Nobody knows really how it spreads, apart from the fact we know it's very, very infectious. The whole thing about this disease is it's a mystery. And because it's a mystery, we can't be sure that it won't turn even nastier than it is. It's nice when it turns out we've overreacted. But it would be, and it's causing trouble, of course, and we've got to sort something out about that. But the fact is, if we underreacted and it was, like a complete disaster for the population and it kept mutating as it spread, there's no way of us to know that. But it's interesting that it says we have this situation where smoking, as is maintained in Woody Allen's film Sleeper, that it's the healthiest thing you can do. In an upcoming article, and this is just speculation, of course, researchers write, although the chemistry of tobacco smoke is complex, these data are consistent with the hypothesis that its protective role takes place through direct action on various types of NACHRS, nicotine receptors, expressed in neurons, immune cells, including macrophages. Yeah, don't ask me. Cardiac tissue, lungs and blood vessels. I don't understand that, but I get the drift that somehow the nicotine acts on a lot of receptors in the body and somehow blocks their sensitivity to the COVID virus. Okay, the hypothesis remains to be proven. Right, well, that might be interesting. So if you see people just pulling their masks down for a quick drag of a cigarette in the next few years, well, the whole world could be changing. Cinemas and pubs could be full of smoke again. And all with the best of intentions. Yes, they'll be saying, if you go to a crowded place, be sure to light up a cigarette. And you will be considered to be antisocial if you go to a party and you're not chain smoking. Interesting. And then there is the other thing that has proved to me that I am definitely hallucinating, because apparently we have an opposition at last. As I've made disparaging comments about Keir Starmer, the new leader of the opposition, but, well, he may not be sexy, but he's performing well. And I'm very, very pleased to see that, because he is taking the government to task about their woeful record with regard to sourcing, well, generally protective things. We've had a lot of health workers of various sorts dying of the virus, and they've died because they've got especially strong attacks. And they've got especially strong attacks because they're getting the dose full on from their patients, and it looks like they haven't been getting enough protection. And we cannot afford to lose dedicated health workers like that. Let's take a look at Keir Starmer.
Pandemic. But we have been very slow, and we're way behind other European countries. Now, the Health Secretary made a very important commitment to 100,000 tests a day by the end of April. But yesterday, the figure for actual tests was 18,000 a day, and that was down from Monday, which was 19,000 tests a day. So we're way behind the curve, and the end of the month is a week tomorrow. So what does the First Secretary expect to happen in the next 8 days to get us from 18,000 tests a day to 100,000 tests a day?
First Secretary.
The right honourable gentleman, congratulate him on his success being elected leader of the Labour Party. I will certainly pass on his best wishes to the Prime Minister. I know he would want to be here in person. And can I join him in paying tribute to all of our NHS and other frontline workers? He rightly raises the crucial issue of testing, which is going to be an incredibly important part of our strategy for transitioning from the current social distancing measures. But I do have to just correct him. Our capacity for tests is now at 40,000 per day. So I think that is an incredibly important milestone. And of course, he's right to say that in the final week, that will require a big increase. But of course, with a project like this, it does require an exponential increase in the final days, in the final week of the programme. I can reassure him that we are working with a range of commercial partners to boost the testing to get to that 100,000 tests per day. 2 of our super labs in Milton Keynes and Alderley Park are now fully functional, and Glasgow will be open later this week.
Keir Starmer.
Thank you very much to the First Secretary. Thank you for his kind comments. I didn't need correcting because I gave the figure for the actual tests a day. The First Secretary says that there's capacity for 40,000 tests a day. And I think it's really important that we fully understand what the First Secretary just said, because that means that the day before yesterday, 40,000 tests could have been carried out, but only 18,000 tests were actually carried out. Now, all week, I've heard from the front line, from care workers, who are frankly desperate for tests for their residents and for themselves, desperate. They would expect every test to be used every day for those that need them. So there's clearly a problem. Why isn't the government using all the tests available every day?
And he's quite right. Why isn't the government testing more? The whole situation is shambolic. Now, it's true, our government got a slow start, and so did many others. It just didn't seem that desperate to start off with. So, to a certain extent, the British government has been no worse than others and better than some. But the fact is, they just can't get their act together. The British do have this habit of saying, sort of muddling through. Yes, well, we'll see what we can do, and we'll just muddle. There's no time for muddling through with something like this. They have acted badly. But there is another aspect to this, and that is our National Health Service isn't up to the job. It's not light on its feet. And if you want to take a look of all of this sort of situation in macro, you can see how the EU has been completely paralysed by this situation. The EU has been unable to do anything of any effect at all. They just talk, video conference, nothing happens. Italy, throw it under the bus. France, just grab as many pieces of PPE as you can and don't send them out, because when it comes to life and death, you save yourself first, or you save your own people first, or you save your own family first. That's just human. And the EU is not a human organisation, and it can't work properly. And it's been shown to be useless in a situation for which it is supposed to be actually, what's that? No, for which it is actually supposed to have been built. Now, the NHS is scaled down. It's the same thing. The NHS has become the responsibility of the government. The government shouldn't be dealing with the NHS. The NHS should be its own body. When the NHS got started, people paid national insurance for their old age and unemployment benefit and that sort of thing. And they paid a health insurance as well on the side. And then at some point, quite soon after it was started, the two insurances were amalgamated, which made the government responsible for all of this. It doesn't work. A government cannot be light enough on its feet. Hospitals could have been sourcing stuff from all over the planet if they'd had the freedom, but they have to go through channels and procedures. And in a situation like this, they just can't get enough speed. There are too many managers. Just to finish off, I want to give you an example of a situation that happened to me years ago. Now I want to explain to those of you who don't know. In Britain, the situation is this. You have, as in my case, a sore knee. You go to the doctor. The doctor says, yes, this appears to be a cartilage problem. I'll send you to the specialist. The doctor then writes a note to the hospital, and then the hospital, the consultant, that is the specialist, you go on the consultant's list and then you get seen. Right. So I went to the consultant. The consultant looked and said, yeah, you've got a sore knee. We'll give you an MRI. And then I waited again. So I went to the doctor, then I went to the consultant. That took a while. And then I waited, I don't know, it was a long time for the MRI. It was about 8 weeks, a minimum of 8 weeks. It might have been more. She MRI'd my right knee. Then, hang on, I'm going to get, I'll use my key. Okay, that's a prop. Hang on a minute. What happened was I went to the radiology department, and there was this nice lady there, and she took my name and my age and what I did for a living, blood type, I don't know. And then they gave me the MRI. Fine. When I came out and I was getting dressed, she was there with her clipboard and she was filling things in and she was going like that. So I said, what's the matter? I thought maybe it was me. No. She said, yeah, the people the person who's supposed to come after you hasn't turned up. Now that's an empty space that we could have filled. And I shook my head in commiseration. But it did occur to me at the time, when you are waiting 10 weeks for an appointment, you do tend to forget. And it's the diseconomy of scale here. You may have people waiting for 10 weeks, and more of them are going to forget than if you gave them an appointment for the week after. Especially if in 10 weeks the pain seems to have gone, or the person has got used to the pain and sort of has found workarounds, and so that it slips their mind. Anyway, Then I suddenly had a bright idea. So I said to the woman, well, look, seeing as you have the time, why don't you put me back on the machine and MRI my left knee? That way we can, in years to come, we might need to compare them. It might be useful. The look of horror on her face, it was just amazing. I was shocked. And she had this clipboard. She sort of did that, grabbed it to her chest. And she said, oh no, I can't do that. And I said, why not? She said, you've got to have it written up by a consultant, requested or invited or something. Well, that's it, you see. She couldn't use her. Now, those machines, they're expensive, but it's not the photographs that are expensive. What's expensive is the rental, because these machines are rented off medical equipment companies. The fact it doesn't matter if you take 20 or 50 photos with them. Really, it doesn't cost that much. So it was just wasted dead time. And she could have MRI'd the other knee, and that might have been useful at some time in the future. And that's the problem, in a nutshell, with the NHS. At least that's the way I see it. If there are any medical people who are watching this who want to tell me otherwise, comments below. Oh, and also, in this alternate universe, I have more subscribers than ever. Well, actually, I don't, because I've noticed that YouTube seems to be scrubbing my subscriber list again. They do that periodically. It's really dispiriting sometimes. So please, like, resubscribe, check that bell, and pass this on to your friends. And I'm asking you this only because I think probably this is real reality, because I'm looking more like Cousin It every day, and still I'm not going to be getting to a hairdresser anytime soon. If you want to donate or contact, the information will be rolling over the Graniopteryx as I speak. Please like, subscribe and share, because it does help with the algorithm. If you visit my channel on YouTube and one day discover that I've disappeared without warning, you'll still find me on BitChute or Minds. Just go to either of those platforms and do a search for Graniopteryx. If you're already watching this on BitChute or Minds, good for you. Meanwhile, if you're watching this on YouTube, remember that you must keep checking the subscribe and bell icons, because occasionally they reset. Till next time.